Hi, and welcome to this Overwatch demo today. Today, we'll be covering the basics of what Overwatch is, including its four main products that make up the entire toolset. Overwatch is a framework of four specific products, each allowing different methodologies with the one understanding that it leverages a single backend to reduce redundancy and data overhead. Those include access, deployment, management, and monitoring. All of this is available with a single solution, which is very easy to deploy, scale, reduces data duplication, has full access control listing, and includes third-party integration to things like ServiceNow and other tools. When we talk about access, one of the biggest questions that comes to us from our clients is how do I access their systems and how do I ensure that their systems are secured in our systems? Each customer has their own subscription setup that allows our customers, our support team, to connect to their customer systems. From our central system, we can connect to each customer. In this case, a customer who has on-premise situations, and we have a single jump server and as well as a monitoring server that allows our team to get to the boxes and monitor them, as well as manage them from day-to-day activities, including SAP and other tools. Other customer setups include setups that are run within the Azure setup. So we want to ensure that we can connect to them, their hosted subscription within Azure or any other cloud system, as well as how they would access it from their home networks. The next part is around deployment. Deployment allows us the ability to have centralized deployment solutions for Windows, Linux boxes that allows us to make sure that we can scale as well as deploy repeatably all these single configurations. So we can create, or we have created, a number of solutions that are deploying of Windows boxes, of SQL boxes, of server, of Red Hat, of SUSE, of Ubuntu, of CentOS, various Windows or Linux operating systems are deployed with configuration around networking, host names, IP addresses, firewall rules, and also including what software is installed. So I want to deploy a box, then I also have S4 apps installed to it, or HANA database installed to it, or SQL servers installed to it. So we can deploy all of those and at scale. So may I need to do refresh, I can deploy a landscape, or if I need to deploy a new customer, I can deploy that all from this backend software. Once it's deployed, we need to manage it. So what we're able to do is using that same framework, we're able to then um, take similar programming, which is cloud agnostic, and be able to patch software, deploy software, common tasks. I need to install a new piece of a new web browser, a new piece of customer-based solutions for firewall security, interfacing, printing. Once we have those secured onto the server, we can then push them to as many servers as you determine us to. So deploy Firefox on all these boxes, deploy this new version of SAT GUI, excuse me, to all these boxes. We can do that from the central server. We can also do audit and compliance. So most of our customers want to know what software is installed, who has access to this, what is the access protocols enabled, what services and IP addresses are running, so we can pull information back and provide that to their auditing teams as well. So now let's look at the crown jewel, which is the monitoring setup of Overwatch. Here we can see the main login window for our lab and demo system. So let us log in. So I'm going to log on as an administration user, which is my user. And from here, we can see what is the initial dashboard of the system. This initial dashboard tells us many, many things. Key to those are how many boxes I have up and running, what kind of services are they run, what is the historical views of those hosts and services, as well as what problem systems we have, so what problem alerts are always tripping up, and various other views. As I said, this is the basic installation of the dashboard. What is critical here is that each of these is a widget, and we'll get into why that's critical later on. So let's go look at a single host. This is a single host view of from Overwatch. On here we monitor many of the usual suspects: CPU, disk space, memory, what's configured, what's not uptime, patching, and things like that. So from all these systems, we can see things like CPU load. What is the CPU doing? Is there any thresholds over historical, either 4 hours, a day, a week, a month, or over a year? Right, so we can go back and look at various historical averages as well as understanding what's going on, any spikes of where it's happening. Further to that, we can look at specific, a collection of graphs. So from there, we can go and look at, this is a process in the back end which has many different performance data characteristics that we can pull from it, how much messages are being processed, what rules are being effective, how many clients are connected, how long is it taking them to connect, are there any events creating, is there any errors, logs, things like that, and also how long is each request taking. So over time, we can view how long is each request that comes to the server taking to be processed. Again, this is a back-end daemon that we're using to run as part of this. Another instance is memory usage. How much memory is this process using, right? So these are things like Java stacks and other things that can be critical to understand performance envelopes. So now that we've looked at a single host, let's go and look at back at our dashboard again and understand what else can we do? What else do we want or do we care around? Understanding this is critical. So we can group these things to be specific to groups or business units or things like that. So one example of this is Linux. So many companies have their IT broken up into different business units, be those Windows administrators, Linux administrators, DBAs, and things like that. So this is an example of a page that is specific to Linux, for example, in this case. So here we have a single page that's pulling a lot of those various graphs that we saw on that single host across a bigger landscape. So here we can see we have 5 Linux boxes. They're all up, which is good. There are a number of services that are okay, and there are a number of services that are not okay. We have CPU utilization across all the boxes. What are the averages and low and disk wait times? What is the memory usage going on inside that box? As well as various things around various graphs to understand head trending and views or whatever. This can all be customized based on what you want to see and what your groups want to see. This is just an example that we get asked quite often is, can you give me a single page for my Unix admins to look at what's going on? So let's go back to the main dashboard. So that's all great and well. So how do we create those dashboards? So let's log out as me and let's log on as an end user. In this case, we're going to create an end user, nicely called Acme. And this end user, when he logs on, he sees a completely different dashboard. And this is the power of Overwatch. From here, we can see that there are different metrics and different values of what is going on in the world that is relevant to this end user or this group, right? It could be DBAs or it could be a business function. So here he cares about, or they care about how many hosts are available, how many services, what are the statuses of the hosts. So we can see these overviews of various boxes, how many users are connected to his backend application, how much memory is in usage. This is a SQL backend, so he cares about his CPU utilization on his SQL and also his cache hit ratio. These are things that they care about and how many transactions are being performed. But what does that mean? How do I then change or improve how that looks? Well, one way we can do it is we can add another one of those widgets, as we mentioned earlier. So we can simply go in here. We're going to choose a gauge. And from here, we're going to choose the SQL box. We're then going to choose cache because we want to make sure that's all good and well. And we're going to go with not that one. Cache total hit ratio. This one here. Okay, so we've got that selected. We've got that selected. Cache hit ratio. And what we want to do is we want to show a quick and easy what is going on and also very visual to make sure we understand what is being shown. That is it. As you can see, what's happened now is we've dropped into a layout option here within the dashboard. So quickly we can place this where we want to place it. And once we're finished here, we can leave the layout mode. And now we have a nice gauge right there on the right-hand side that shows us the cache hit ratio. So very similar to this graph here. It is the same graph, in fact, but with a more visual grabbing metric, right? So more visually and understanding of the where we are, where the thresholds are, and these thresholds can be set on a service by service or host by host or groupings, dev, production, things like that. So you can set various thresholds based on what you need to know and understand. So what if you're looking through your systems and you're understanding and you're looking at various things and you say, you know what, I would like this graph available on my dashboard. Well, so inside each of the graphs, we can add those to our dashboard. So let us go in here and let's go in and look at what can we add here. So let's add locks per batch, right? So this is a understanding of how many locks are going on inside my database. And let's look at adding this to my dashboard. Again, we'll go back to the nice layout option here, and we're just going to plop this right in here. Make it nice and lined up. Make sure we're not overlapping anything. Yeah. And then exit the edit mode. And there we go. We've added another graph that we liked on someone else's page or someone else showed us and we said, hey, I'm interested in that. So now I can add it to my dashboard. So there you can see the flexibility of what the dashboard option allows you to do. It allows you to quickly add and remove things that are relevant to you and also allows you to better understand on a single pane of glass what is going on in your entire landscape. But what if you have something that covers multiple machines? Let's say you have an ETL process that is taking something from one place to another, to another, to another. You then need a better understanding of what is going on end to end. And to that option, we have what are called business integrations. So a business integration, what we've done here is we've set up a very simple ETL process. We have a box in AWS, which is extracting data from a database and creating a nice little CSV file that we're then going to transfer over to Oracle Cloud. And in Oracle Cloud, it's going to do some transformation of the process, take those data, understand what's going on, add more data to it, transform others and values and other historical data. And then once it's finished, it's going to upload that into its own database, as well as send an archival copy back to AWS and also archive it locally within OCI. That whole process is looked at from an end-to-end of understanding of each of those single processes are running on completely separate clouds in this case, but we also need to understand is the overall view of the aggregation of this is an end-to-end process. But you also, if it breaks, you want to be able to see where did it break, and therefore you can send the team to look at that in specific process. But what about over time? Well, because we've created this business integration, we can now look at SLAs across that business aggregation. So once we've created an aggregation, we can see SLAs around what is its availability, downtime, are there any critical errors? So therefore, when you start to create matrices, we can also tie those back to your SLOs and SLAs to better understand what is going on. And so there we go. That is Overwatch in a nutshell. Do we have any questions? No? Perfect. Well, thanks for joining us and hope you have a great day.